Hey, what's up, guys? It's H from the Comeback Sports Podcast, and this is Season 5, Episode 4. We have a lot to talk about. Sorry, I just scratched my nose. We have a lot to talk about. Today, I'll be going over the Heisman odds of who I think is going to win the Heisman this year, Deion Sanders' debut game with Colorado against TCU, and then I want to talk about my alma mater, which is Iowa State, and their game against Iowa this coming weekend. It's definitely been a busy week. I hope everyone had a good Labor Day weekend. I know I did. I went to a wedding. Actually, it was Trevor's wedding. He was on the show a few times. It was a great time. Got to relax, hang out at home, hang out with my niece and nephew. It was good. This week it's definitely been a busy one. You're coming off of the holiday weekend, so a lot of work needs to be caught up, and then I have Thursday and Friday off since I have to go out of town for the Iowa State football game. So I'm excited because I haven't been back in Ames in 4 years now. So it's probably going to look a lot different. So I'm excited to see what all they've done out there. Let's jump into who I believe will win the Heisman. So I'm going to pull out a list. These are the top 5 candidates based on Vegas odds for the Heisman trophy for college football. But how I kind of rank my pick for Heisman is it has to fill a criteria list. And that list has to check mark these boxes, which is this person, this player, the top in their position? Will their team most likely have a 10-win plus season? Does the offense or defense supplement them? Meaning, if it's a quarterback, is it a pass-friendly offense? Or if it's a running back, is it a rush-friendly offense? And then how many ranked opponents they face in their regular season? So I'm going to start with the top right here, which is the 5th on the Heisman odds, which is Clemson's Cade Klubnik. So those of you who know, Clemson just lost against Duke on Monday night. And Cade definitely didn't do that well. And it's also his first year starting a whole season. And as I mentioned, he's not very elite and he didn't do very well. And it's just not a high passing offense. So in terms of the criteria that he checks off is like Clemson may have a 10-plus win season and they face ranked opponents. But Cade is obviously not the top in his position, and the offense definitely doesn't supplement around them, which is why he'd be 5th on this list. And then 4th would be J.J. McCarthy from Michigan, who is another quarterback. So in his debut game for this season, he had 3 TDs with an 86% completion and 280 yards against East Carolina. He check marks the boxes of he faces ranked opponents throughout the season, and he's probably going to have 10-plus wins with Michigan. He's arguably an elite quarterback in position, but Michigan's defense is more the highlight along with their running back Blake Corum. So I just don't see him being the star of this offense that's going to lead Michigan to the promised land, which is probably a Big Ten championship or potentially the college football playoffs. Now we go for 3rd on my list. This is a new fan favorite of mine because I was talking about Florida State in my last episode, how they have a chance of winning the ACC, especially now, and that is Jordan Travis, quarterback from Florida State. So what I like where he check marks the boxes is he's a top quarterback in his position. Florida State's going to have 10-plus wins, and this offense definitely supplements around him. For example, against LSU, who is a ranked opponent, by the way, he got 5 TDs on 74% completion for 342 yards. He took care of LSU no problem, and as I mentioned, they're ranked, but there isn't really that many more ranked teams for the remainder of their season. The only ranked team I can think of on that list is going to be Clemson, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're out of the rank AP poll pretty shortly, though. But he's someone I definitely want to look out for, and he is someone that's great to watch as well. This one's actually my favorite pick in terms of who to put the Heisman on, and that's Michael Penix Jr. From Washington. He is a quarterback, and he's been playing college football for 4, maybe 6 years now. he check marks some boxes. He's top in his position, in the quarterback position. Washington is going to have 10-plus wins. The offense definitely supplements around him, and he's going to face plenty of ranked opponents in the Pac-12 and outside the Pac-12. In his debut game for the season against Boise State, he had 5 TDs, 73% completion, and threw for 450 yards. So pretty impressive game. My only concern is he's very injury prone because he has gotten injured quite a few times in his college career. But if he can stay healthy, I honestly could see him running away with this Heisman trophy. He just got to stay healthy, of course. Then there is the best pick in the Heisman odds according to Vegas. This is for plus 450, and it is Caleb Williams from USC. Caleb Williams was the Heisman last year. Had an impressive season. In this season, he is a top quarterback prospect. USC is going to have 10-plus wins. Offense supplements around him, and he faces plenty of ranked opponents. Pretty much check marks all the boxes here. And this season so far, he's had back-to-back 4-plus TD games against San Jose State and Nevada. USC is a top contender for the college football playoffs. They face 4 ranked opponents in their schedule to solidify their strength. And Lincoln Riley, who's the head coach, is arguably the greatest pass-first coach in the history of college football. So the offense definitely supplements around him. And I've seen Caleb Williams make those hard throws even if the play fails or is on the run. So he's definitely top in his position. I just want to give a quick shout out to some honorable picks, which is Shadir Sanders and Travis Hunter from Colorado. They're both from Colorado. They had an enormous game against TCU on Saturday, and it was just electric to watch them. And these are guys I really want to pay attention to, especially Travis Hunter, because he's a two-way player. So let's transition over to Florida, into Colorado, facing TCU. So Deion Sanders had his debut game with Colorado, where they went against 17th ranked TCU, and they won. And it was real electric to see. Colorado won 45-42. Deion Sanders brings life to this team. He has these roles that he assigns to his players. Like a player will have an L for leader, and then another player will have a D for dog. And he just seems to connect very well with his players, not just his son or the top prospects, but just everybody. And I think that's what makes him unique, is that he relates to the kids, and he's super confident. He's also just Hollywood. I mean, he is a big name in anything related to football, whether it's being on the field or being off the field as a head coach. He's Hollywood. He's a TV personality, and he's brought a lot of his top players from Jackson State with him to Colorado, which includes his son and Travis Hunter, Travis Hunter was one of the top high school prospects in his class. And speaking of him, he could do it all. He can catch. He caught 11 receptions for 119 yards, and he can cover as a corner. He had 1 interception. It's unbelievable. I haven't seen anything like that, where someone can catch for 100-plus yards and get an interception in the same game. And then his son, Shadir Sanders, he breaks the Colorado passing record for most yards in a game, which is 510 yards, and threw for 4 TDs. And here's the interesting stat I really liked. He had 4 receivers that had 100-plus yards each. He distributes the ball very well across all his teammates, and that's probably what's going to make him so unique and hard to play against, because you just don't know who he's going to throw to. So I found that to be a really impressive stat, that he was able to distribute this ball so well across all the players that he had in his disposal. So this is what I liked about the first game for Deion Sanders in Colorado. They responded very quickly every time TCU scored. One thing I didn't really like, or I thought was a little concerning, was there wasn't really much of a run game. At the end of the game, there was 55 total rushing yards. Sure, I mean, it's not the worst thing to have, but still, like when your pass offense is struggling or is covered really well, you're gonna have to rely on the run game. And I don't know, I didn't see much of that in this game. So hopefully they're able to adjust if that time ever comes to them. And then another concern I had was the O-line. The O-line allowed 4 sacks on Shadir. And the defense, it allowed 42 points. I I understand it's the first game. Hopefully they'll kind of go through all these pain points throughout the season. But it honestly reminded me so much of a Big 12 powerhouse team, almost like Oklahoma. And it's even funny because Colorado is going to be in the Big 12 starting next year, so they'll fit in just right. They'll fit in just fine. Thoughts of TCU for this season is they have a lot of players that are gone that came from their college football playoff team. So it's just not the same as last year. But putting up 42 is impressive. So I like what they had offensively. And my prediction for Colorado this season is going to be this. I think they'll have at least 6 wins this season. And they will fit in competitively in their debut season in the Big 12. I would say in 2024, they'll get a couple more recruits. They'll have their players be more seasoned and more adjusted to each other, and they'll easily be a top 5, top 10, and a top 5 team in the Big 12 for next season. Okay, now let's talk about the Iowa State game, aka the CyHawk game. It's a big tradition with Iowa sports because there's no professional teams in Iowa, so you watch a lot of college sports in the state of Iowa, particularly Iowa Hawkeyes or Iowa State Cyclones. I watched both games on Saturday, and I'll break down the pros and cons of each team and then give my overall prediction of what to expect for the game on Saturday. So for the Iowa pros, the Hawkeyes defense looked pretty well. Business as usual with them. A great O-line. Saw pancake blocks everywhere, especially on the run plays. Their tight end, Luke Leachy, put up 73 yards, which was impressive. And, of course, their punting team took care of business. Torrey Taylor had 3 punts inside the 20. So this is a typical Iowa team in terms of the pros that they had this on the game against Utah State. Here are the cons of what I didn't really like. So Iowa recently got Cade McNamara, who used to be the starting quarterback for Michigan, but then J.J. McCarthy took over the role, so he transferred over to Iowa, which is a great asset to Iowa because they've never had a good quarterback well, that's not true. They've had good quarterbacks. They haven't had a good one in a while, though. However, I sensed some inconsistencies. First drive they scored, which was impressive, but then they could never really get back that same rhythm and just couldn't really do much in the second half. So I just didn't see much consistency in the offensive side of things, especially with the passing game. And then the run game. It wasn't really that impressive either. 2.4 yards per carry. And as mentioned, there's really not much of a deep threat for passing with this inconsistent offense. So let's kind of talk about the pros of the Iowa State Cyclones. This is based on what I've seen on the game against UNI. Their defense looked really great. I really liked it. 2 interceptions, one of them turned into a pick 6, and they had 7 pass deflections. Run game looked great. Average 5 yards per carry. Their punting improved. They didn't allow any sacks, and their backups were stepping up. Rocco, who was the quarterback for this game, he had 3 TDs. So I like what I see so far. The cons I have is some starters are not there. They actually got in trouble for gambling complications. That's what you get for trying to cheat the system. And just like Iowa, there's not much of a deep pass threat. So that's what they have in common in terms of cons, is there's just not a high power passing offense. If I were to predict this game, you may be surprised just because I am a Cyclone, but I also don't like to be biased and let it cloud my judgment. But I'm going to say Hawks are going to win by 4. Both offenses have improved in different ways, but Iowa's punting is going to position ISU in the back of their own territory a lot, and I can't see the run game alone drive them to the end zone. But I think Iowa State's kicking will keep them in close range in terms of points. So that's why I think it's only going to be a difference of 3 or 4 points. So I would say the total score is going to be no more than 24 total points because it's just typical that Iowa State football is just not a high power or high scoring game. However, I still can't stand the Hawkeyes. And to even show you what I mean by that is I'm going to present this graph that I created. So this is my Iowa Hawkeye football cycle, or presented by Hater AJ. So these are the 9 stages of Iowa football. Stage 1 is the preseason. Iowa Hawkeyes, they start ranked and they beat up on borderline G5 teams, including Iowa State and some weak Big Ten West teams. Then they get to stage 2, which is delusion. They have delusional college football playoff hopes. They say, we want Bama. I actually heard Rain say this once, and I almost slapped him. And they literally think they have a chance of going to a New Year's Six Bowl or the college football playoffs. And then you get to stage 3, which is the reality stage. They actually start playing good Big Ten teams from the East, such as Penn State, OSU, or Michigan, and they get their asses whooped. And then stage 4 is the blame. They demand to fire someone that isn't Kirk Ferentz, their head coach. In this case, they want to fire his son, which is weird that they give this guy so many chances to be on the team. They have some contract where he has to put up 25 points a game to keep his job, which is absurd. I've never heard anything like it, but they'll pull strings if it's Kirk's son, though. Then you get to stage 5, which is the remedy stage. They get back to beating up on weak Big Ten West teams, and they get their hopes up, which leads to stage 6, which is the false hope stage. They start talking about the Big Ten championship, like they're going to make it now. But then there's stage 7, which is grief. They lose a big divisional game to punch their championship ticket, and it's usually against Purdue, Wisco, Illinois, or sometimes even Nebraska. That's their favorite game they love to brag about or talk shit about, is because, they like to beat on little brother Nebraska. I remember last time they lost to them, so that was very funny to see, in my opinion. Then you get to stage A, which is the consolation prize. They make a bowl game. Yay. But it's always against a team that they're favored to beat. And then stage 9 is the offseason. They demand to fire someone other than Kirk again. And then you go back to stage 1, and the cycle just never ends. All things considered, yeah, I'm a big hater. I'll admit it. But there's one thing I appreciate about Hawkeye football is that it brings life to the state of Iowa. If you're ever from Iowa, there's nothing else to do in that God forbidden state except drink beer and watch football or basketball. In Iowa and Iowa State are the teams to take care of that need for you. So that's what I appreciate both teams for. I don't really have anything else to chat about. I hope everyone has a great rest of their week. And I hope you'll be cheering for the Iowa Cyclones this weekend because they're going to need it because, as I mentioned, they're probably not going to win, but I'm still going to cheer them on, and I got tickets to the game, so I'm going to be really cheering them on for that game. So thanks again for watching, everybody. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Every little bit helps. I will see you guys in the next episode. Take care.